Welcome to the Stanish Inquisition, a podcast where Stan Zalowski, serial entrepreneur and CEO of Movista, talks with guests about anything, from family life to personal life, recipes for success, or grandma's potato salad. The name is dark, but the content isn't. It's often unexpected, occasionally funny, sometimes irreverent, but always interesting.
Hello, this is Stan Zalowski. Welcome to another edition of our Movista podcast segment. Today we are very pleased to have David Kersey. Is that right? Kersey?
Kersey.
Yeah, okay, Kersey. David, glad you're here.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Tell us about Nerdies. Tell us what your overall position is with Nerdies, and just tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. So Nerdies is a division or an element within Pixel. And Pixel, a school for media arts here in Northwest Arkansas, is focusing on education at the crossroads of creativity and technology. Nerdies is the spot where we introduce the kids to the opportunity that may exist for them in the future.
All right, and then your role in the organization. What's the exact title?
I'm the executive director.
Executive director, okay.
Yeah, of Pixel.
Let's go back. It's you pick, 5th, 6th, 7th grade in that time frame.
Yeah.
You're loving technology. You're totally into it. You're not into it yet at all. What
I don't
was your
even know
relationship?
what it is.
All right, you're not touching it.
You're talking 5th, 6th grade?
5th, 6th, 7th grade?
Yeah, no. Like at that time, we're 80s. So, it was, Commodore 64 Maybe a friend. I heard the name of that down the road somewhere.
You were ahead of that. So no video games?
Yeah, Nintendo.
Okay,
probably.
right on.
Yeah, Nintendo.
So
but
that's okay.
more of the focus was art. I was doing portraits,
drawing.
Wow.
No
I was in art classes.
Okay.
Drawing, painting. I actually did caricatures for prom, for the senior prom when I was in 8th grade.
Wow.
One of the art teachers from the middle school brought a couple middle school kids to do the characters.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So how old were you when you figured out, like, hey, man, I'm good at this. I can do this. It feels good.
How old am I?
Come on, man. I'm just saying, I can't draw caricatures. I'm 46. So, like, did it come natural to you?
I think drawing, yeah, on some level for sure. Yeah, I was, yeah.
Okay, so you're wrapping up high school, and you're like, all right, what am I going to do next? What was that process like for you?
Well, let me back up a little bit because I'll tell you when it all changed. So my sophomore year in high school, the head of the science department got a grant to get a couple Macintosh computers into our high school. So it was like a PowerPC 1600, some old school early Mac computers, and I had a friend at the time who was a real techie kid and was like, these are awesome, and yeah, you can do all these cool things with them. And I was like, yeah, they're really cool, what can we do? And right about that time, Toy Story came out, and they put Jar Jar Binks into Star Wars, and some people loved it, some people hated it. But anyway, I was like, that's cool. And I was like, this is awesome, and started playing with it. And sort of that was my intersection of technology. And I don't really know why I kind of realized that was a possibility for me. I started asking my friend, hey, where can I go to college to do this? And the Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia, came up on the radar. And it just so happened they had a soccer team. And I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. I can go maybe play soccer and do this. And I didn't look at another school. I went and visited my junior year, Savannah, which is a really cool place.
Oh, man.
And I just picked it, and I applied. I got in. Found out later they let everybody in, so that was I was like, oh, well. Anyway, I got in. I went, actually ended up making the soccer team, played soccer, and got a Bachelor of Fine Arts with a specialization in computer animation.
You get through, you're getting this degree, and, you had this great experience, and now it's like you're birthed out into the real world.
Yeah.
What do you do now?
So I sent about 75 VHS tapes out to the world. And when I do talks to kids, I ask them, do you know what that is? And it's a pretty funny joke to the kids.
No. Right.
But, and I got like 3 calls, for a couple interviews. And one was in Chicago. I went for a minute and didn't get that. And then basically packed my car and drove to LA, literally with an interview. I finally got hired by a company called Creative Visual Effects.
Now, I do have to ask this question because, these are movies that I have a young son. I have two sons, but one of them's still young, and he watches these fine motion pictures. When you're working on a film like that, are you thinking to yourself, this thing's going to be good? Or are you thinking to yourself, Lordy?
At the time, definitely thinking Lordy. But what's interesting is I got hired as a tracking artist, so I was tracking the film plates that would allow us to put this computer dog into the movie, if you will, that won't get into the technical details. But I got hired, and my first job was from 7 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Wow.
And I did that for about 3 months before I moved into tracking the 3D dog head onto the real dog and whatever, details. But I just wanted to talk about the progression of determination of, 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. I was
that.
there. I was
no,
doing
of course.
And then I got to move to the day, and we worked that, and then we did that movie, and I went on vacation. We were supposed to come back and do Baby Geniuses 2, which was going to be awesome.
Right.
And I got a call from my buddy who was working there. He said, "Well, the doors are closed today. They're locked. We don't have a job anymore."
Oh,
that was their way of letting us go.
So that's cool. So not cool. You're now
not employed.
Yeah, unemployed.
Yeah.
And what do you do now?
That place actually was a hodgepodge of artists that had already worked in a lot of major studios. It was kind of like the industry out there works on a project-by-project basis, so you might work at Disney on a major film, and then they might not have a project for a year and a half, and if you're not real core staff, then they're like, hey, we got to let you go. We'd love to hire you back. We don't mind if you go work somewhere else. And so at the time, the people that were working there had worked at Sony, had worked at Disney, and everybody scattered back out to those studios, and I had all those friends, and I started making calls. And one of them was at Sony Pictures ImageWorks, and he said, "Oh, send your resume in and apply for this tracking job," which is another sort of tracking. It was when they were doing the motion capture for all the people from the Polar Express. And
now we're starting to get into some fine motion pictures.
Yeah, and I was going to be it's crazy. They record the actor doing the acting with those little suits with the dots on, right?
Yeah.
And then all that data goes into the computer, and every little dot has an animation curve, and that's how it controls the character in the world. Well, sometimes that little curve gets a little out of whack, and the arm flies off screen and spinning out of control, and a person has to go in there and fix all that and bring those things in and refix the arm, and it's very tedious and very painful.
So this is the thing you were looking to do.
Well, this is what I had applied for. And back on the Kung Fu Fighting Talking Dog movie, I had gotten to do just a little bit of hair. I'd gotten to kind of grow some fur, and I did a couple fur dogs and just very introduced to hair. And I had applied for that tracking job, and a couple weeks later, I hadn't heard anything, and so I just decided to call HR at Sony and just to check on my resume. And I called them up, and I said, "Hey, submitted my resume for tracking a couple weeks ago. I just wanted to check in on it." And the HR lady that day was like, "Oh, hey, you have hair experience, right?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah."
Are you kidding me? It's my passion.
Exactly. I was like, "Yeah, for sure." She goes, "Well, send your resume again." I was like, "Okay." You don't argue with that. You're like, "Don't you have it?" But anyway, I sent it back, and they called me back that afternoon. They said, "We'd like to bring you in for an interview this afternoon." And so I went in and I interviewed for a cloth and hair position on it was interviewed for two movies. I interviewed for Polar Express, and I interviewed for Spider-Man, I think it was 2 at the time. And I ended up getting hired on the Polar Express as a cloth and hair technical director.
Oh, man.
And that was it. I mean, once, you get in, but obviously you got to prove yourself day in, day out. But once you're in and I ended up working on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Chronicles of Narnia. I worked on Beowulf. I worked on a movie called G-Force, all on a hair team. Basically, computer-generated and simulated hair.
So every person that we've done one of the podcasts with has identified this seminal moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And whether it was them taking initiative or someone else taking initiative, such a small thing, right? It's so cool. And hopefully, I'm making my boys listen to this podcast. This is so beautiful that you're like, you know what? I need a job. and I get hope for the best over at Sony, or I can give them a shout. And then it just takes a person on the other side of the line saying, you know what, send me your resume again.
Yeah.
Right. My guess is at Sony, if you apply to one job, they can't use that resume for another. Who knows what the rules are. But
who knows?
Okay, so this is cool. You're working on Polar Express now. When you're working on this one, it's TH.
Yeah.
You knew it was going to be Hanks, right?
Yeah. Well, no. Well, yeah. No, actually, it's a funny story. I didn't even know what the Polar Express was.
Well, no, I'm saying, I mean, once you get in and you're working on it.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're like, well, wait a second now. This is not Karate Dog.
No.
This is a Tom Hanks serious Sony like Christmas movie.
Yeah.
So I'm just asking, like, to me it would be so exciting, and you would be, because you're thinking now, okay, this is for reals.
This is huge.
This is for reals.
Yeah.
And don't screw it up.
And what's real funny is the first thing that they gave me to do. They could have given me, boy number 9, right, to do the hair. They gave me Tom Hanks's mustache and the hair behind his ears as the very first project that I had to do when I started.
Wowzer. And and they spent a lot of time focused on that face of his too.
Yeah, it's funny because it wasn't even a real mustache. They taped it onto him and cut it and trimmed it the way they wanted it to be, and then took a photo of him and laid that photo on my desk and said, "This is what we want you to make."
All right, so I want to get to all the great stuff you're doing now, Pixel. So just give us if you got another big story to share, I definitely want to hear it. But in general, just the kind of the highlights. We're just the Alps right now.
Sure.
You do Polar Express.
Yeah.
Then at some point we know you do Frozen. You've already exposed that.
Yeah.
What else? Other ones that the kids at home would know maybe.
Yeah, I mean, just I 6 years at Sony in hair, and was really looking for a change, like a different piece of the puzzle in the making of the movies. And oddly enough, Sony ran out a little bit of work and had a little lull, and I got let go. And it's interesting, they gave me a severance package, and then right before my actual leave date, they said, "Oh, a project's popped up. Do you want to stay?" And I had already started conversations at Disney, and they had hired me to come on for Tangled.
Oh, okay.
So the real funny part about it is, here I am 6 years doing hair. I'm really tired of hair.
Right, and Tangled.
And here I am I'm not getting hired necessarily for hair on Tangled.
Right.
I was getting hired to be a look development artist, which is the textures and the materials for the brick or the leather on the shirt or whatever it is. It's the material, we do that part. But they also make the hair shape, but they don't make it animate. And so here I am getting hired for the biggest hair movie ever. And I go in and I'm telling Disney I don't want to work on hair, and I work on the textures and materials, and that department finishes all its work. And they're came to me and they said, "Hey, it's great having you. It's just not a lot of work for a while. We're going to have to let you go." I was like, dang, I just got here. So, it's like 6 months worth of work. And so I saw the hair simulation supervisor walking down the hallway, and we had met and talked before because he knew that I'd worked on hair. I said, "Hey, you need any help working on that hair?" And he's like, "Yes." He's like, "Yes, would you want to help? Would you want to come work on the hair?" And I was like, "Definitely, I totally will." And I was like, "I'll just do background characters, whatever. I'll just help you, get the movie done. No big deal." I figured there was a hair team and they were all working on the main characters and all that stuff, And he's like, "Great." And so they switched me up and got me on that hair team, and then he's like, "No, wait, we want to put you on the Rapunzel team." So he's like, "All I want you to do is do hair simulation for Rapunzel only. So none of the other characters."
Wow.
So then all of a sudden I'm doing the main shots in the movie, like the opening scene when she opens the cupboard and her hair flies up in the air, and when she runs out into the field and she's running, spinning around, stepping over her hair. I was doing those shots.
How and then you're just like, I've loved this. I've spiked the ball in the end zone.
Yep.
I really want to go to Arkansas and teach kids how to do this, or what's in between those two things?
Yeah, no. So, basically after Frozen, so Frozen was next, and that came, and it was awesome. The whole time I was leaving California. the whole, like, really, I mean, back to, like, even my second year there, I'd be like, Mom, like, this is just not my place, I'm here for the experience. I was going to leave after Sony, and then I got the offer at Disney and was like, well, I can't leave, so I've got to stay around, so.
But you're ready to come home at some point.
Yep.
And how's it all go down?
Yeah, so I was kind of like not knowing, I wouldn't say I was ready to come home, I just knew that I was going somewhere else, and then home was, I'm close to my family. I have brothers and sisters, and they have kids, and I just, didn't want to be away from my family for the rest of my life. So, it was just a day, kind of just a day that I was like, it sort of seems like I was sitting in traffic one day. I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm done.
Right.
And I just literally said, I'm going to move to Fayetteville. Like, no idea what I was going to do.
Wow.
Like, no clue. I knew that education was something I wanted to do. And so I moved here. Jumped in the mix, and one of those friends had hired somebody who had gone to New Design School in Fayetteville and had learned some graphic design through Sonia, and introduced me, and I started talking to her, and she said, hey, do you want to start an animation program at New Design School? And I said, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it.
That's awesome.
And kind of just... jumped into the mix with her, started looking at, the current operations and how things were going, and was really, I just came from Disney, and my expectations were, Disney. It was like I knew what the best and the biggest organization looked like and how it operated and what it did. And Sonia was doing all she could, and she was doing the best she could, and there were students coming through there and doing good things, but I was like, I want this to be big.
Mm-hmm.
I'm see huge.
Yeah.
And so there was not a lot of revenue coming in, and so she couldn't hire me, and I just said, well, I'll become your director of development if you'll let me make some business cards, and I'll go out and start talking about what it is.
Another proactive move.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
So I went out and started talking about what the possibilities were for careers at the crossroads of creativity and technology. I was telling my story, literally. It's cliche, but it's the reality. People are like, what's the story? And I'm like, well, I mean, it kind of is my story of being an artist, getting introduced to technology. Yes, a lot of determination, but it's possible if you put the pieces together.
Sure.
And so that's what it became, and I started working, and we worked for about 3 years on adding in nerdies and adding in contracts at high schools. So we go into high schools and actually develop a curriculum. We have a partner with Arkansas Arts Academy where we actually teach within the regular school day there. So you can, as a kid, you can go to school there and take the media art class as one of your electives. And the reason that I did that was because of why the opportunity happened for me. It was in high school. So I was like, why aren't we doing this in high school? And I started talking to all the schools, and they just didn't quite have the curriculum in place. It was either they were trying, or maybe the football coach was teaching a Photoshop class or something like that. And I was like, we need to put real industry professionals into the classroom. We need to tell industry, and they need to let their industry professionals go to a high school and teach for an hour, like on a Tuesday. Because in the long run, we're going to develop really talented kids, and we're going to create huge opportunities for them. And so during those years, the contract with Arkansas Arts Academy happened. We started teaching that. At the same time, I inherited Nerdies, which was insane. Started working on doing whatever I could to make that possible. And one thing that I did there was go out and create location partners. So we host Nerdies all over Northwest Arkansas instead of previously it was at one location in Fayetteville.
Smart, yeah.
That created partners, right? That created people that we could work with, and we could bring it to other places where kids could make it. And so we've grown that. Like I said, 350 kids this summer. And now we've been Pixel for about 6 months, and we're moving forward with that, and we're growing, and we have a big vision for careers at the crossroads of creativity and technology. And I'm going to go over that because we talk about what's going to happen, right? That's a good segue into what's going to happen is automation is coming, right? You guys build software here to do things that makes it easier on employees or makes it faster or saves money for businesses. It just is what it is. And I'm in the computer world, and I've been in it forever, and I know that people are going to keep hammering at those things, and it's just going to get better and better, and automation is going to become a thing. And jobs are going to be impacted in some way. And I believe the jobs that are still going to be around are the creatives. And then when you take the creative and you give them technology, that's the real job that exists for them. That's the job that they're going to have that's going to create a monetary product for a business and not a painting that they want somebody to come by and buy, which is great. I love paintings, and I still paint, and I make paintings, and I want people to buy them too. But at the end of the day, the real career possibility is that technology artist, that technology creative, that creative mindset, if you will, whatever, to come up with the app or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It all comes from the creative, but without the technology piece, they are still somewhat of a fine artist, right?
Once you learn to think in a certain way,
Right.
If you went to work at IBM as an engineer 35 years ago, the technology you're using today has nothing in common with that technology other than bits and bytes.
Yeah.
But it's a way that you think that sets you up for later success.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So just as we're winding down, I love that I have been very fortunate to sit on a couple of nonprofit boards. And love to give credit. You know, you heard the word earlier, the word development. I learned that word early on. That's when you got to go out and get people to give you money. Right.
We're looking for that.
Well, I'm sure that you are.
Let me just talk about it a little bit, though.
Yeah.
You know, our programs currently do bring in revenue, and that revenue pretty much just pays for those programs to exist. So we make money on Nerdies. That pays for that mentor to be there and teach, right? And we try to keep those costs down. Nerdies is $350 for the week for a kid to go to, camp all week long. But
less expensive than a babysitter.
Yeah, but but you add that up, out of that $350 per kid, there's, we pay our mentor, $85 to $100 per kid. So, and then our marketing and everything else, there's not a lot there.
Yeah.
So. And then same with our classes and our contracts with the schools. We try to give them a rate that allows us to put a teacher in there. But those extra costs, those admin costs, those staff that we would really like to have, the high-end technology that we would like to use to really provide that to the computers or to provide that to the students, that's going to come on the backs of the kids, or it's going to come on the backs of the support of community and the revenue. So it's where do we use our nonprofit status to get help to provide the best technology, to add an extra program to bring. I've got a buddy at Disney right now just dying to move to Northwest Arkansas and work here if I can hire him. And so it's going to take me a long time to get enough money to hire him out of every little, $10 or $25 per registration at Nerdies or tuition.
So there's, if you're out there and you're thinking, where can I put a few bucks that can make a big difference? This is a great place to do it.
Would be huge, yeah.
Great place to do it. So I think that what you're doing in leading this and having made this life shift is remarkable.
Appreciate it.
I think anyone who spends more than 5 or 10 minutes with you, you have a contagious enthusiasm about this, and so I am excited about it.
Thank you.
So I want to figure out how we can help too, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah,
we'll do this again sometime.
So learnpixel.org is the Pixel website.
Oh, now you're picking up the
And nerdies.me is the Nerdies website. Though you can get there through our main website too, and just me, contact David Kersey. You can Google me. You can get in touch with me in many ways. That'd be the best way, because I'd like to really, sit down. If you really, really want to support, I'd like to sit down and really let the nitty gritty of what we're doing and why. And
fair to say, anyone who wants to talk about being part of your campaign gets a free Nerdy shirt.
Absolutely.
These Nerdy shirts are so cool. All right, listen, this has been super fun. Learned a lot. Had a couple of laughs. David, keep doing the good work that you're doing. We're going to keep Movista-ing, and we will talk to you again soon. Thank you very much. Have a great day.